people would tell me that when I was down, I should just exercise. That would help, right? Besides, all the research supports this. Exercise group had reduced depression. Exercise could be used to treat depression. The list goes on and on. So that basically meant that when I was down, I should just go for a bike ride and I'll feel better, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. And it's not as simple as it seems. I'm also going to offer some practical advice in this video, so make sure you watch to the end to get that. But who am I? I am a PhD student studying depression, and I'm also a long-term sufferer of this disease. I know how debilitating it can be, and I don't want anyone to make the same mistakes that I did. So let's get into the video. So first, what is depression? Well, it's this complicated disorder that should be seen more of a spectrum than individual conditions, with psychotic depression on one side and psychotic mania on the other, and stability in the middle. It's a spectrum with, it gets more extreme. You get it. It's characterised by a bunch of symptoms that are outlined in the DSM, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically the diagnostic manual that doctors use to diagnose you, really. So for major depressive disorder, it outlines symptoms such as low mood, lack of enjoyment, weight loss or gain, insomnia, hypersomnia, agitation, fatigue, feelings of worthlessness, indecisiveness, and suicide ideation. You don't need to have them all, but you do need a subset. What's most important to know is it's not always sadness. You can laugh and still be depressed. Sometimes it's a complete lack of emotion. Ultimately, it's a mental disorder of differing severities that basically cause the user to not want to get up, not want to do things, not to see people, not do things they'd normally enjoy. Don't get up, stay in bed, rest. Everything else is just too much effort, so what's the point? That then leads to further thoughts of why you aren't doing anything. And things that may help, such as seeing friends, are difficult to do because you don't have the motivation and you feel as if you won't get much enjoyment from it, coupled with the fact that you're exhausted anyway from being depressed. So, honestly, staying in bed makes perfect sense. So, how do we break out of this cycle? Well, sometimes a good night's rest is all we need. Sometimes you need a little more than that. I will also say, if you are concerned, please go speak to a GP. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm just offering my advice from my experience, from my knowledge. But what about exercise? We hear that's a good thing, right? So what is this advice? Well, according to the NHS website, it is to build up to 150 minutes of moderate activity a week, which is the same for everyone. It's also important to note that it should be something you enjoy. So don't run if you don't enjoy running, like me. I hate running. I've tried it. I know I hate it. I know if I tried to set up a running schedule, then I wouldn't make it to week 2 without murder. So find a form of movement you enjoy. Could be anything. Don't do something just because what you feel like you should do or because someone told you to do it. Do something you enjoy, and this might require some experimentation. So try yoga, try climbing, dancing, running, cycling, waving your arms around, screaming in an attempt to court the ceiling fan. You do you. Also, this is more to treat mild to moderate depression. Anything more severe likely needs therapeutic intervention. So, feeling low? Go exercise. Why this advice is dumb? Okay, not dumb, just not an instant repair. So firstly, when you're depressed, doing any form of activity, any form of task is difficult in itself. You're already exhausted because depression is exhausting and you don't get much enjoyment from anything. So what's the point? And fighting that is a battle in itself. So now you're exhausted, demotivated, and you're still having this internal battle just to get out the door, to do an activity you probably wouldn't even get that much enjoyment from anyway. But it'll make you feel better, right? Well, let me tell you about 2 times that I did manage to win that fight and I managed to make it out the door. So the first time I was just having a really low day, but I'd planned to go practice my squat and deadlift a bit later on. And when I finally managed to make it to the gym, I was just having a bit of an off-form day. Or I also find that when I'm depressed, I make more mistakes, stupid mistakes. So normally if this happened, I would stop, lighten the weight, film myself to see if there is anything up with my form that I could change. But being in such a state, I was taking each failure so personally, as if it equated to me being a failure in everything that I do. I lifted this last week. I can do so again. What's wrong with me? I got home and I just cried. No, I didn't feel better. I didn't regret going either. In any case, I was in no state to physically push myself. I should have gone a bit easier. Now, the second time was during the first lockdown. I'd been ill with long COVID for a while, so I hadn't been able to exercise, and this had just put me in this deep hole to a point where I had no motivation to even pick up a weight. And I kept lowering my expectations until I was just going for a walk. Now, it was about June 2020 at this point, so British summertime was as here as it was going to be. It didn't stop my thoughts that kept telling me how much of a failure I was just because I struggled to go for a walk. I stayed out for about 2 hours, walked till my feet hurt, and spent so much time holding back the tears because I didn't want to cry in public. I don't remember what I did when I got home because all the days sort of blurred into one. But the good news is I did find a love of walking, which I still do to this day, and it didn't improve my mood. I was still low as hell and had no idea how to get out of it. So, in hindsight, I can kind of look back now and understand more about it. The issue was that my depression was more coming from the uncertainty of the world and this pandemic, and the fact that I was struggling to work from home. I felt useless. So exercise could have helped, but it didn't address those core issues, which were outside of my control. And it honestly goes to show, because when I was finally allowed back into my office, when I was finally allowed to go back to the gym, my mood almost instantly improved. So I didn't regret trying to go for a walk at all, as I do think it probably did help. It got me out of the house, it helped me do something, but it didn't cure anything. And despite all of this, I still recommend exercise. So this advice is good. Exercise has so many benefits outside of self-esteem, such as endorphin release, but it's building up that habit that is difficult, more so even when you're depressed. So my recommendation: start small. Go with what feels manageable for you that day, and what that might be may be different from someone else, maybe different from you yesterday, maybe different from you in 2 weeks. So if you can't manage a whole gym session, just go and do one exercise. If that's too much, just go for a walk. If that's too much, then set an alarm every hour and just make sure you get up and go walk around the house for a bit. But just do something. Depression traps you in this state of inaction, which then further exacerbates the feelings of worthlessness. And the best way to fight that is with action. Just anything. Just put one sock away, wash one plate. But just don't push yourself too hard, and don't be too hard on yourself, because these negative thought spirals that we get into really do push us down in these deep dark holes if you can't do something that you feel like you should be able to do. There is no should when it comes to depression. You're not lazy, you're depressed, you're exhausted, and fighting yourself is bloody difficult. So remember that when the negative thoughts come. So exercise will help you physically, and it may help your self-esteem, and it will give you ammunition against these negative thought spirals. When feelings of worthlessness come in, I'm like, yeah, but have you seen what I managed? And that kind of breaks me out of this negative thought spiral. I have proven to myself that I am not worthless, and exercise has been so integral in that, which is why one of the reasons why I still highly recommend giving it a go. So exercise will help you feel good, but it's not going to be as effective if your depression comes from a place such as a bully of a boss, or an unfulfilling job, or loneliness. It can help, but it shouldn't be the only action you look to. If in doubt, again, please go speak to your GP. You are worth it and you deserve joy. Now, the final point I want to make is you can address the cause of your depression. You can build a solid workout routine and still have dark days, but hopefully they won't be as bad. For me, exercise has been so integral to building up my self-esteem, confidence, and proving to myself that I can do great things. So when I start thinking about how I'm failing, I'm worthless, I just remind myself of that and feel proud of my achievements. But even when I can go to the gym, and when I'm repeatedly going, the dark days still come. I can't stop them. Thankfully, they are quite short-lived. for the most part. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact that I can break myself out of these negative thought spirals. And thinking about what I have achieved weight loss wise, exercise is wonderful and will help you in your battle, but it won't cure you. Overall, exercise is a force for good and I do recommend it, but actually doing it is quite difficult. Let's find something manageable. And don't be too hard on yourself if you can't do something you'd normally do. You're doing it with a weighted vest on. Doing anything at all is impressive. Be kind to yourself. Depression is really good at making things that will help you get out of it really difficult, and emphasising all the negatives and completely minimising the positives. It may be difficult to see the positives in the time, so just remember that your thoughts are probably very biased against you at that point. Start small, walk around your house, wash your face, put one dish away, one sock, anything. Take a small, manageable step that you feel that you can do. If in doubt, just do something. And ultimately, talk to your GP. I'm gonna keep saying it, I do apologise, but it's very important that I'm not a doctor, and your GP will be able to offer you all the treatment options out there. And therapy may be something that is much more important, or getting a prescription. I think there is a bit of a pandemic going on. Not COVID, but I think there is a mental health pandemic that's been caused by all this, and I think I'm part of that. And it's really difficult, and I don't know how much is actually being spoken about. And honestly, I wanted to get out my message. I wanted to talk about my experience and hopefully help you. So I really hope you've taken something from this video. Or if you just listened to me ramble on for however long, then thank you for staying that late. Comment down below if you've ever used exercise to help you improve your mental health. I think it is a good thing to do, and I'm interested to hear your stories. Stay safe and subscribe for more advice. I keep winking at you. I'm sorry. I'm not flirting. Maybe I am.